The text came through while I was in the middle of a client presentation. 3 words that made my stomach drop. Family emergency. Home. My name is Harper, and I've spent the last 6 years building a life far away from my family's drama. The irony of my mother's message interrupting my PowerPoint about strategic risk management wasn't lost on me. Everything okay? My colleague James mouthed from across the conference room. I gave him a quick nod and continued clicking through slides, but my mind was already racing through worst-case scenarios. With my family, emergency could mean anything from my sister Lily's latest crisis to my mother's desperate need for attention. I excused myself the moment the presentation ended and called home. No answer. Called again. Still nothing. My mother's voicemail greeting felt like a slap in the face. You've reached Diane Sinclair. Please leave a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Right.
Unless you're her eldest daughter, then it's radio silence after dropping a bomb. I booked the next flight home while speed walking to my office. $600 I hadn't planned on spending, but that's how they operate. Urgent demands followed by deafening silence. The pattern was so familiar it made my teeth hurt.
My phone buzzed again.
This time, a text from Aunt Clara. Your sister's okay. Just come when you can. The knot in my stomach loosened slightly, but something still felt off. Aunt Clara never got involved unless things were serious. She was the family's voice of reason, the only one who saw through my mother's manipulations. I packed my laptop and grabbed my emergency overnight bag. Yes, I keep one at the office specifically for these situations. As I waited for my Uber, another text came through, this time from my father. Your mother's just excited. Don't worry too much. Don't worry? When has that ever worked in this family? The drive to the airport gave me time to think. Maybe too much time. Every mile brought back memories I'd carefully packed away. Missed school plays because Lily needed attention. Canceled birthday parties because she wasn't feeling well. The constant reminder that I needed to be the strong one. As I settled into my seat on the plane, my phone lit up one last time before takeoff. A message from Lily herself. Can't wait to share the news. You'll be so happy for me. I turned my phone off and closed my eyes. Whatever this emergency was, I had a feeling it would cost me more than just an airline ticket. The family home hadn't changed. Same pristine lawn, same perfect shutters, same suffocating feeling as I walked up the driveway. My mother's Mercedes sat in its usual spot, gleaming like a trophy. Next to it was a beat-up Volkswagen I didn't recognize. The front door opened before I could reach for it. Harper. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of manufactured excitement. You made it just in time for dinner. Just in time.
Right.
As if this whole thing hadn't been orchestrated down to the minute. Inside, I found the dining room set for a formal meal, the good china, crystal glasses, even fresh flowers. My father stood awkwardly by his chair, while Lily sat beaming next to a young man I assumed was the owner of the Volkswagen. He had kind eyes and looked completely out of place. This is Ben, Lily announced, practically bouncing in her seat. She thrust out her left hand, and there it was, a modest engagement ring that somehow managed to catch every bit of light in the room. Surprise. My mother squeezed my shoulder. Isn't it wonderful? I forced a smile, noting how Ben's tie didn't quite match his shirt. A librarian, Aunt Clara, had mentioned in a text. Not exactly the type my mother usually approved of for her precious Lily. Congratulations, I managed, taking my seat. How did you two meet? Oh, it's such a cute story, my mother interrupted before either of them could answer. But first, Harper, tell us about your new promotion. A senior consultant now, right? That must come with quite a salary bump. And there it was. I watched my father suddenly become very interested in his water glass. The promotion's going well, I said carefully, still settling into the role. Lily was just saying how perfect it is that you're doing so well right now, my mother continued, serving portions that were more presentation than sustenance. With the wedding coming up and all the expenses. Ben shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Interesting. We haven't set a date yet, Mother. Lily cut in, but her eyes flickered to me with that familiar calculating look. But we were thinking spring. Something elegant but intimate. Speaking of elegant, my mother brightened, wait until you see the venue I found. It's absolutely perfect. A bit pricey, but for a once-in-a-lifetime event. I took a long sip of water, remembering my own once-in-a-lifetime college graduation dinner that got canceled because Lily had one of her convenient episodes. The memory of celebrating alone at a diner still stung. Actually, Ben spoke up for the first time. I was thinking something simpler might be nice. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. My mother's fork paused halfway to her mouth, and Lily's smile became slightly fixed. This dinner was about to get very interesting. I couldn't sleep that night, so I wandered down to the kitchen for some water. That's when I heard them, angry whispers floating up from the basement, where Lily and Ben were staying. We can't afford this, Lily. You know my salary at the library barely covers our rent. But Mother already put down the deposit. And Harper can help. You saw how well she's doing. I'm not comfortable asking your sister for money. Why not? She owes me after everything. I froze on the stairs, water glass forgotten in my hand. Owes her? For what? Stealing all the oxygen in our family for 25 years. What do you mean, she owes you? Ben's voice had an edge I hadn't heard before. You don't understand. I've been sick my whole life, and she just left. Went off to make her fortune while I was stuck here dealing with everything. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Dealing with everything? Like the time she miraculously recovered from her chronic fatigue to go to prom. The same week I had to cancel my college campus visit to take care of her? That's not what your aunt told me, Ben said quietly. She mentioned something about Harper working through high school to save up. Clara needs to mind her own business. Lily's voice rose sharply before dropping again. Look, it's simple. Harper makes good money now, and this is what families do. They help each other. The stairs creaked under my feet as I shifted weight. The whispers stopped abruptly. Hello. Lily called out. Harper? Is that you? I considered staying quiet, but what was the point? Just getting some water, I said, continuing down the stairs. Everything okay down there? Lily appeared at the bottom of the stairs, all wide eyes and concerned expression, her default setting when caught in something. We were just discussing wedding plans. Actually, I'm glad you're up. Could we talk? Behind her, Ben emerged from the basement, looking uncomfortable. I should head to bed, he mumbled, squeezing past us. Lily waited until his footsteps faded before turning to me with that familiar, pleading look. So, about the wedding? I heard enough. I cut her off. The answer is no. You don't even know what I was going to ask, don't I? The venue deposit Mother already put down despite you being engaged for what, a week? Let me guess, it's non-refundable? Her face changed then, the mask slipping just enough to show something harder underneath. You really haven't changed, have you? Still so bitter, so selfish. Selfish. The water glass shook in my hand. That's rich, coming from you. Mother was right, she said, her voice taking on that trembling quality that usually signaled an incoming episode. You really don't care about anyone but yourself. As if on cue, I heard movement upstairs. Mother, probably waiting to make her entrance at the perfect dramatic moment. Some scripts never change. The engagement party was everything my mother dreamed of and everything I dreaded. Crystal champagne flutes caught the light from chandeliers, while waiters in crisp uniforms weaved through clusters of my parents' country club friends. The perfect facade for the perfect family lie. I watched from a corner as Lily worked the room, one hand always touching Ben's arm, the other clutching a glass of sparkling water. She'd already played the health card twice, dabbing at non-existent tears while describing how her condition might affect the wedding planning. Your sister's really milking it tonight. Aunt Clara appeared beside me, her voice low. Though I suppose with that venue deposit coming due. How much? I asked, though I already knew it would be astronomical. 40,000. Just for the deposit. Clara sipped her wine. Your mother's already talking about taking out a second mortgage. My stomach clenched. No. Your father's doing what he always does, pretending everything's fine while his credit cards max out. Across the room, Ben stood alone by the appetizer table, looking lost in his rented tuxedo. Our eyes met briefly before he quickly looked away. Interesting timing, isn't it? Clara mused. Lily announcing her engagement right after your promotion made the local business journal. Before I could respond, my mother's voice cut through the party chatter. Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. She stood in the center of the room, perfectly coiffed and beaming. First, I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate Lily and Ben's engagement. And special thanks to my eldest daughter, Harper, who's generously offered to host this evening's celebration. My champagne glass nearly slipped from my hand. Heads turned, smiles directed my way, while my mother continued, "It's so wonderful when successful children remember their family obligations." I never agreed to this, I whispered to Clara. Of course you didn't. She squeezed my arm. But the bill's already been arranged to go to you. Diane made sure of that this morning. The room suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. I watched Lily lean into Ben, playing the blushing bride-to-be, while my father studied his shoes. 6 years of carefully maintained boundaries, shattered by one perfectly orchestrated moment. My mother raised her glass. To family, the crowd echoed her toast, but I was already moving toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Lily's familiar theatrical gasp, the prelude to one of her episodes. Harper. Her voice quavered. Where are you going? I'm not feeling well. I kept walking. Let them deal with the fallout for once. Let them explain to their perfect society friends why the generous sister abandoned their perfect party. Some obligations needed to be broken. I made it halfway to my car before my mother caught up with me, her heels clicking rapidly across the parking lot. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Her voice carried that dangerous edge I remembered from childhood. The bill is due tonight. What am I supposed to tell these people? Tell them the truth, I said, fishing for my keys. Tell them you committed fraud by putting a $40,000 party on my credit card without my permission. It's for your sister's happiness. She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. After everything we've done for you. I yanked my arm away. Everything you've done for me? Like canceling my college graduation dinner because Lily had a headache? Or convincing Dad not to help with my tuition because Lily's medical bills were more important? Your sister was sick. My sister was acting. The words exploded out of me, years of suppressed truth finally breaking free. She's always been acting, and you've always known it. The party doors opened behind us, spilling light and music into the parking lot. Lily emerged, supported by Ben and my father, putting on her familiar swooning performance. Harper, please, she called out weakly. Don't ruin this for me. I'm not feeling well. Stop it. My voice was steady now. Just stop. No more fainting spells. No more mysterious illnesses. I'm done financing your drama. How dare you? My mother's face contorted. After everything your sister's been through. I saw her at the gym last week. Ben's quiet voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned to stare at him. She was there for 2 hours. No health issues then. Lily's face transformed, her fragile mask cracking. You're all against me. You've always been jealous, Harper. You can't stand that Mom and Dad love me more. Love you more? I laughed, the sound harsh and unfamiliar. They don't love you more, Lily. They're afraid of you. There's a difference. I'll tell everyone, she shrieked, dropping the invalid act entirely. I'll tell them you abandoned your sick sister, that you're cruel and selfish. Go ahead. I open my car door. Tell them whatever you want. But first, explain to Ben why you needed $40,000 for a venue when he thought you agreed on a backyard wedding. Ben's head snapped toward Lily. What? I got into my car, watching through the windshield as their perfect family picture finally shattered. My father stood frozen. My mother's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, and Lily, for once in her life, had no performance prepared. As I drove away, my phone started buzzing with messages. I switched it off without looking. Let them deal with the wreckage of their own lies for once. I was done being their audience. The social media posts started 3 days after I left the engagement party. First, it was just vague references from my mother's friends about ungrateful children and family loyalty. Then Lily's tearful video went viral in our hometown's Facebook groups. I never wanted to share this publicly, she sniffled into the camera, but my sister abandoned me during a medical crisis, refusing to help with life-saving treatment costs. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from old classmates and colleagues. Even my client meetings were affected. I could see people checking their phones during presentations, their expressions shifting as they connected the dots. We should discuss your position here, my boss said during our weekly meeting. Some clients are expressing concerns about reliability and family values. I stared at him. Family values? Your sister's medical fundraiser has over 50,000 shares. He slid his tablet across the desk. It doesn't look good, Harper. The fundraiser page showed Lily in a hospital bed, an old photo from her teenage appendectomy. I realized with a sick jolt. The description detailed years of supposed medical neglect and financial abandonment. My mother had commented, "Despite our other daughter's success, we're struggling to afford proper care. Please help us support Lily in her time of need." Back at my apartment, I found a letter from the credit card company. The engagement party charges had gone through $40,000 I never authorized. Fighting it would mean pressing charges against my own mother. My phone lit up with a text from Ben. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. Lily admitted everything, but your mother's already spent the venue deposit. They're saying you agreed to it." Another notification popped up, an email from HR requesting a meeting tomorrow morning. Below that, a message from Aunt Clara. "They're telling everyone you had a mental breakdown. Your mother's worried you might do something desperate. She's laying groundwork for something, Harper. Be careful." I walked to my window, looking out at the city I'd built my new life in. 6 years of careful boundaries and professional reputation, demolished in 3 days by a few well-placed lies. My phone buzzed again, my father for the first time in days. "Your mother and sister are just trying to protect the family name. Maybe if you apologized." I turned off my phone and opened my laptop. The fundraiser page was still there, comments flooding in about the heartless sister who abandoned her family. Below it, an article about toxic success and the price of ambition featured my LinkedIn profile photo. They'd finally found a way to make me pay, not with money, but with something far more valuable. My reputation. My career. My carefully constructed escape route. The perfect revenge, wrapped in a victim's bow. I didn't plan to attend Lily's charity fundraiser at the country club. But when Aunt Clara sent me the video of my mother coaching Lily on her symptoms for the local news interview, something snapped. The ballroom fell silent when I walked in. My mother froze mid-speech at the podium, while Lily's practiced invalid pose slipped for just a moment before she remembered her audience. "I have proof," I announced, my voice carrying across the stunned room. "Medical records, bank statements, and surveillance footage from the gym where my critically ill sister works out 5 times a week." "Harper." My mother's voice took on that familiar warning tone. "This isn't the time or place." "It's exactly the time and place." I held up my phone. "Should we play the video of you two rehearsing Lily's symptoms? Or maybe the one where you discuss using the engagement party charges to force me to pay up?" Lily stood up shakily, reaching for Ben's arm. He stepped away, leaving her grasping at empty air. "You're just jealous," she spat, dropping the fragile act entirely. "You always hated that Mom and Dad loved me more." "Loved you more?" I laughed. "They feared you more. There's a difference. And now everyone else can see it too." My mother rushed down from the podium, but Aunt Clara stepped between us. "It's over, Diane. The hospital already confirmed they have no record of Lily's supposed treatments." The crowd began to murmur. I saw phones coming out, recording the scene. My father stood frozen by the dessert table, looking lost. "Everything I did was for this family," my mother hissed. "To keep us together." "No," I cut her off. "Everything you did was to keep control. But you made one mistake. You taught me too well how to build a paper trail." I turned to address the room. "The fundraiser money? It's already been frozen by the bank. Fraud investigation. Turns out faking medical conditions for financial gain is illegal." Lily's face crumpled. Not in her usual performative way, but with genuine fear. "Mom, But our mother was already backing away, her carefully constructed facade cracking as she realized her audience had turned against her. I've sent everything to the police, I continued. The credit card fraud, the fake medical claims, all of it. You wanted to destroy my reputation? Congratulations. Now, everyone knows exactly who we are. The room erupted in chaos. As security arrived, I caught Ben's eye. He gave me a small nod before walking out, leaving his engagement ring on a nearby table. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's finally telling the truth. 6 months after the fundraiser scandal, I sat across from Aunt Clara at our usual coffee shop. The criminal investigation into my mother and Lily's fraud was wrapping up, with plea deals in the works. Your father's filing for divorce, Clara mentioned, stirring her tea. He's been staying with me while he looks for an apartment. I nodded, unsurprised. Dad had called me last week, our first real conversation in years. He'd apologized, not with grand gestures or excuses, but with simple truths about his own cowardice. And Lily, community service, mandatory therapy. Clara smiled wryly. She's working at the hospital, the real one this time, cleaning floors instead of pretending to be a patient. My phone buzzed, a text from Ben, who'd become an unexpected friend through all this. He'd taken a job at a library across the country, sending occasional updates about his new life. Your mother asked about you, Clara said carefully. Her therapist suggested. Not yet. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. Maybe not ever. That's fair. She reached into her bag. Though you might want to see this. She slid a letter across the table. My mother's handwriting, but different, shaky, uncertain. I tucked it into my jacket without opening it. Some wounds needed more time. The company offered me a promotion, I said instead. Different office, fresh start. Running away? Moving forward. There's a difference. Clara nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. Sometimes the healthiest families are the ones we choose, not the ones we're born into. My phone buzzed again, my new team asking about dinner plans. In the months since the scandal, they'd become more than colleagues. They'd become my safety net, never asking for more than I could give. You know, Clara said as we gathered our things, revenge wasn't really what you were after. No. You wanted the truth. That's braver than revenge. She hugged me goodbye. And harder to live with sometimes. Walking home, I passed a mother and daughter window shopping, their easy laughter echoing down the street. Once, that sight would have felt like a knife twist. Now it was just a scene, someone else's story. The letter weighed heavy in my pocket. Maybe I'd read it tomorrow. Maybe never. The choice was mine now, and that was the real victory. My phone lit up with another message, this time from my father. Proud of you, kiddo. Then and now. I smiled, letting the evening breeze carry away the last echoes of who I used to be. Some families break, so better ones can form from the pieces. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, on your own terms.